The Harlem night pulsed with chaos. Siren wails sliced through the humid air. Neon lights flickered on graffiti-streaked walls, and the thump of hip-hop spilled from a corner bar. Marcus Langston, his suit jacket torn at the elbow, shoved through the crowd, his breath ragged. His phone burned in his hand, the school's text glaring. Lila, missing, not seen after class. His daughter, 8 years old, autistic since the car crash that stole his wife Helen, couldn't speak, only signed with her hands. A mute child lost in a city that never slept. "Where's my girl?" Marcus roared, his voice cracking over the din. Faces blurred, vendors hawking bootleg CDs, teens laughing, a cop barking into a radio. Marcus's heart pounded, each beat a plea. "Lila, hold on." Then, cutting through the noise, a violin's fragile melody rose, sharp and haunting from a side street. He froze, drawn to it like a lifeline. Pushing past a knot of onlookers, he stumbled into an alley where Zara Miles stood under a buzzing neon sign, her worn coat flapping, her scarred hands coaxing life from a battered violin. Beside her, Lila sat on the curb, her small hands dancing in American Sign Language, mirroring the music's rhythm, her eyes alight with wonder. Marcus dropped to his knees, scooping Lila into his arms, her warmth flooding his chest. "Lila, thank God," he whispered, stroking her braids. Her fingers kept signing, music, music, clearer than ever. He looked up at Zara, her bow still poised, her dark eyes steady despite the crowd's murmurs. "What did you do to her?" he demanded, his voice raw, torn between relief and suspicion. "I played," Zara said simply, lowering her violin. "She came to me." Her voice carried a quiet strength, unyielding despite her frayed appearance. The crowd pressed closer, phones raised, filming the white CEO clutching his daughter beside a black street musician. Marcus felt their stares, the weight of Harlem's distrust for an outsider like him. Lila's hands fluttered, signing music again, her face glowing in a way he hadn't seen since Helen's laughter filled their home. He stood, Lila clinging to him, and faced Zara. Why her? Why my daughter? The question hung heavy, unanswered, as Zara packed her violin, her movements deliberate. A teen in the crowd snickered. Rich guy lost his kid, now he's mad at the violin lady. Marcus ignored it, his focus on Lila's hands, still dancing to a melody only she could hear. The alley's neon buzzed louder, casting Zara's silhouette against the graffiti, a figure both broken and defiant. Marcus tightened his grip on Lila, her heartbeat steady against his. Something stirred in him, a flicker of hope amid the chaos. Zara slung her violin case over her shoulder and met his gaze, her eyes promising something he couldn't yet grasp. As the crowd dispersed, Harlem's pulse thrummed on, and Marcus felt the first note of a song he didn't know he'd been waiting to hear. Marcus Langston's Manhattan office gleamed, floor-to-ceiling windows framing a city that never slowed. At 38, he'd built an AI startup from nothing, but the weight of his corner desk felt heavier each day. His fingers traced a photo of Helen, her smile frozen before the crash that stole her and left Lila autistic, silent except for her dancing hands. Lila, now 8, sat by the window, signing Sky in ASL, her braids catching the dusk light. Marcus watched, his chest tight. "I promised you, Helen," he whispered. "I'll keep her safe." He'd moved his company to Harlem, sinking millions into community projects, coding boot camps, youth centers, to atone for a world he couldn't fix. But Harlem didn't trust him. Graffiti outside his office read, "White money out." Bradley Thornton, his lead investor, leaned back in a leather chair, his tailored suit crisp. "Harlem's a PR stunt, Marcus," Bradley said, voice smooth as steel. "Your focus is slipping. Investors want results, not charity." Marcus clenched his jaw. Bradley's fund, known for squeezing startups dry, held his company's lifeline. At home in their Harlem brownstone, Marcus knelt by Lila's bed, her hands signing stars as she drifted to sleep. Keisha, Helen's younger sister, stood in the doorway, her social worker badge glinting. At 35, Keisha carried her own scars. Her son, Jamal, killed in a Harlem shooting 3 years ago. "You're playing savior, Marcus," she said, arms crossed. "Harlem doesn't need your guilt money." Her eyes flicked to Lila. "And that street violinist? She's trouble. No credentials, no stability. Lila deserves better." Marcus's mind flashed to Zara Miles, the woman from the alley. Her violin had woken something in Lila, a spark he hadn't seen since Helen sang lullabies. He'd found Zara again at Marcus Garvey Park, her scarred hands pulling raw beauty from her battered instrument. A small crowd watched, tossing coins into her open case. Lila, on a rare outing, broke free from Marcus's hand, weaving through picnickers to sit cross-legged by Zara, signing music to the violin's waltz. Zara didn't flinch, her eyes locking with Lila's, as if they shared a secret language. "She's not a teacher," Keisha snapped later, stirring coffee in Marcus's kitchen. "She's homeless, Marcus, probably burned out from drugs or worse." Marcus shook his head. Lila smiled, Keisha, for the first time in years. Keisha's face softened, then hardened. Jamal smiled too, until this city took him. Don't risk Lila for a stranger. That night, Marcus scrolled through Bradley's latest email. "Focus on profit or we pull funding." His phone buzzed, a grainy video from the alley incident, now viral on X, captioned "White CEO clashes with Harlem musician." Comments stung, outsider causing trouble. He slammed the phone down, staring at Lila's drawing on the fridge, a stick figure with a violin, hands signing music. Outside, Harlem's pulse hummed, car horns, laughter, a distant siren. Zara's melody echoed in his mind, fragile yet unbroken. He stepped onto the brownstone stoop, the August air thick. Across the street, a mural of Harlem heroes, Malcolm X, Maya Angelou, watched him. Marcus felt small, an intruder in a place that had shaped Helen. Yet Lila's smile, her hands dancing to Zara's music, burned in his memory. He pulled out his phone, drafting an email to Zara's contact from a flyer. "Can you teach Lila?" As he hit send, a violin's faint strain drifted from the park, calling him forward. Harlem's lights flickered, and Marcus sensed a path opening, one he wasn't ready to walk, but couldn't turn away from. Marcus's Harlem office vibrated with tension, the hum of his AI servers drowned by Bradley Thornton's voice on speakerphone. "Your numbers are slipping, Marcus," Bradley said, his tone sharp. "Harlem's charity projects are a sinkhole. Refocus or we're done." Marcus gripped the desk, his knuckles pale. Bradley's fund, notorious for gutting startups, could end his company. Outside, rain lashed the window, blurring graffiti, white money out. Marcus's dream of redeeming Harlem felt like a noose. At home, Lila sat cross-legged on the living room rug, her hands signing music in slow, deliberate loops. Marcus watched, his heart heavy. Therapy, speech drills, sensory rooms had failed to reach her autism, locked since Helen's crash. He'd promised Helen strength, but doubt clawed at him. Can I save her? Zara Miles's violin, Lila's smile in the park haunted him, a spark therapy couldn't ignite. He'd emailed Zara, offering lessons, but Keisha's warnings rang loud. Keisha stormed into the brownstone, her social worker badge swinging, eyes blazing. "You're hiring that violinist?" she snapped, tossing her rain-soaked coat. "Zara Miles has no credentials, Marcus. She's a drifter, probably hustling you." Keisha's voice cracked, revealing the scar of her son Jamal's death in a Harlem shooting. "I lost my boy to this city's chaos. Don't let Lila get hurt by some stranger." Marcus stood, hands raised. "Lila smiled, Keisha. She signed clearly with Zara. That's more than therapy's done." Keisha's face twisted. Jamal smiled too before a bullet took him. "You don't get it. Harlem chews up dreamers." She paced, her boots thumping. "You're a white CEO playing hero. This isn't your world." Marcus flinched, her words cutting deeper than Bradley's threats. He saw Helen in Keisha's fierce eyes, a reminder of his vow to protect Lila. But Lila's hands, signing music, pushed him forward. Zara arrived the next day, her violin case battered, her coat patched. Marcus led her to the living room, where Lila sat, eyes fixed on the window's rain streaks. Zara knelt, her scarred hands gentle, and unpacked her violin. "Hey, Lila," she said softly, "wanna play?" Lila's head tilted, her fingers twitching. Zara drew her bow, a single note quivering like a heartbeat. Lila's hands leaped, signing music fast, then reached for the violin. Marcus held his breath as Lila's fingers brushed the strings, plucking a raw, crooked note. Her face lit up, a smile, pure and unguarded. Marcus's throat tightened. "How'd you do that?" he whispered. Zara shrugged, eyes on Lila. "She feels the music. I just listen." Keisha, watching from the doorway, gripped her coffee mug, her face unreadable. "This doesn't prove anything," she said, voice low. "Lila's fragile. You're gambling with her future." She turned away, but her eyes lingered on Lila's smile, a crack in her armor. That night, Bradley's email landed. "Cut Harlem projects or lose funding." Marcus stared at the screen, his reflection ghostly. His phone buzzed. Another X-post. The alley video reshared. "White CEO exploits Harlem kid." Comments piled up. "Go back to Manhattan." Harlem's distrust, Bradley's ultimatums, Keisha's fears, they pressed in, suffocating. Yet Lila's crooked note echoed in his mind, a fragile thread of hope. He stepped into Lila's room, where she slept, her hands curled as if still signing music. On her nightstand, a photo of Helen smiled, her eyes fierce with love. Marcus touched it, whispering, "I'm trying, Helen." Outside, Harlem's rain softened, streetlights glinting like stars. Zara's violin case, left by the door, gleamed wet. Marcus picked it up, feeling its weight, and set it gently down. A decision settled in him, not a question, but a step forward. The city's pulse thrummed, and he knew he'd fight for Lila's smile, no matter the cost. Marcus Langston's Harlem brownstone felt like a cage, its walls closing in under the weight of Bradley Thornton's latest email. "Cut Harlem projects by Friday or lose everything." The AI startup he'd built for a decade teetered, and with it, his dream of redeeming Harlem. Outside, the August night buzzed. Car horns, distant rap, a siren's wail. Marcus stared at Lila's drawing on the fridge, a stick figure with a violin, hands signing music. Her smile, sparked by Zara Miles, was his only anchor. Zara taught Lila twice a week now, her battered violin case a fixture in the living room. But Marcus learned she lived in a rusted van, parked near Marcus Garvey Park, her belongings stuffed in trash bags. "I'm fine," Zara said, deflecting, her scarred hands steady as she tuned her violin. Lila, cross-legged, signed music fast, her eyes locked on Zara's bow. Marcus watched, torn. Zara's music reached Lila, but Keisha's warnings gnawed. She's unstable. Keisha burst in one evening, her social worker badge glinting, voice sharp. "You're still letting this drifter near Lila?" She jabbed a finger at Zara, who froze mid-note. "She's homeless, Marcus, probably scamming you." Keisha's eyes, shadowed by Jamal's loss, burned. "Lila's not your experiment." Marcus stood, voice low. "She's helping Lila, Keisha. Look at her." Lila plucked a string, her crooked note ringing. Keisha's jaw tightened, but she stayed silent, her gaze flickering to Lila's glowing face. The next day, Marcus found Zara at the park, her violin case open for coins. A group of teens approached, sneakers scuffing. "Play something real, not that white folks stuff," one sneered, kicking her case. Coins scattered. Marcus rushed forward, shouting, "Back off!" Another teen shoved him, phone raised, filming. White CEO saving his pet musician? The kid mocked. Zara grabbed her violin, her hands shaking. The teen smashed it against a bench, strings snapping. Marcus lunged, but they scattered, their laughter echoing. The video hit X hours later. CEO causes chaos in Harlem. Comments exploded. Outsider, get out. Marcus drove Zara to his brownstone, her broken violin cradled like a child. Lila ran to her, signing music frantically. Zara knelt, tears falling, and signed sorry with trembling hands. Lila's fingers slowed, then traced Zara's scars, her eyes wide. Marcus's chest ached. Lila's trust in Zara was unshaken, but Harlem's rage, Bradley's threats, and Keisha's doubts crushed him. "You're not safe here," he told Zara. She shook her head. "I've survived worse." Keisha arrived, seeing Zara's tears. "Told you she's trouble," she said, but her voice wavered, softened by Lila's hand on Zara's. "She's no good for Lila," Keisha added, quieter. Marcus snapped. "She's giving Lila something I can't." Keisha flinched, her eyes meeting Zara's, a silent question forming. She left without another word, her boots heavy on the stairs. That night, Marcus sat by Lila's bed, her hands curled as if signing music in sleep. His phone buzzed. Another X-post. Harlem rejects white savior. Bradley's email followed. "Friday's your deadline." Marcus's vision blurred. He stepped into the living room where Zara's broken violin lay. Picking up a splintered piece, he felt its jagged edge, like his fracturing world. Outside, Harlem's pulse thrummed, graffiti glowing under streetlights, a distant violin's ghost. He opened a box of Helen's things, finding a faded hospital bracelet from a fire years ago. His breath caught. The name wasn't Helen's, but it stirred a memory he couldn't place. The city's hum grew louder, urging him to dig deeper. Marcus Langston's hands trembled as he held the faded hospital bracelet from Helen's box, its ink barely legible. Fire victim, 2010. The name wasn't Helen's, but the date struck him. 15 years ago, a blaze in Harlem. His wife, a nurse, had worked that night, coming home with ash-streaked clothes, her eyes distant. Marcus hadn't asked. He'd been too busy building his startup. Now, with Lila asleep, her hands curled like signing music, he sat in the brownstone's dim light, piecing together a truth he'd missed. Zara Miles arrived the next morning, her broken violin replaced by a borrowed one, its wood chipped but playable. Lila ran to her, signing music with eager hands. Marcus watched, the bracelet heavy in his pocket. "Zara," he said, voice low, "were you in a fire years ago?" Zara froze, her scarred hands tightening on the violin. "Why?" she asked, eyes narrowing. Marcus pulled out the bracelet, its plastic glinting. "My wife, Helen, she was there." Zara's breath hitched. She set the violin down, her voice barely a whisper. "I was 16, trapped in a tenement fire. A woman pulled me out, carried me through smoke." She smiled, even as her hands burned. Zara touched her scars, eyes distant. "I never knew her name." Marcus's heart pounded. Helen Langston, she was a nurse, worked Harlem emergencies. He showed a photo, Helen beaming in her scrubs. Zara's eyes widened, tears brimming. "That's her. She saved me." Keisha walked in, her social worker badge catching the light. She stopped, sensing the tension. Marcus handed her the bracelet. "Helen saved Zara, Keisha, 15 years ago." Keisha's face crumpled, her fingers tracing the bracelet. "She never told me," she whispered, voice breaking. "She came home that night, hands bandaged, and just hugged Jamal." Keisha sank into a chair, tears falling for her sister, her son, her own guarded heart. Lila signed Mom, her hands slow, as if sensing the weight. Zara knelt by Lila, signing thank you to the air, to Helen's memory. "I owe her," she said, voice steady now. "I'll help Lila, no matter what." Marcus nodded, his resolve hardening. But Bradley Thornton's deadline loomed. Tomorrow, his fund would pull the plug unless Marcus axed Harlem's projects. His phone buzzed, another X-post, white CEO's charity scam with thousands of likes. Harlem's distrust was a wall, and Bradley's power was a blade. Zara stood, her borrowed violin in hand. "We fight back," she said, eyes fierce. "A concert, live-streamed, for Lila, for Harlem. Show them who we are." Marcus hesitated, Bradley's threat, the viral hate, Keisha's doubts. But Lila's hands signing music to Zara's melody were a call he couldn't ignore. "Do it," he said. "Hashtag Harlem Hope. We'll make them see." Keisha looked up, her tears drying. "I'll help," she said softly, her voice a fragile bridge. They planned through the night, Zara sketching set lists, Marcus rigging a live stream setup, Keisha rallying community leaders. Lila sat close, signing hope, her fingers dancing like Helen's courage. Marcus felt the bracelet in his pocket, its weight a tether to his life's legacy. Outside, Harlem's streets pulsed, neon signs buzzing, graffiti glowing under rain-slicked lights. The city's rhythm was a challenge, daring them to rise. As dawn broke, Marcus stood by the window, Helen's photo in hand. Her smile, fierce and kind, mirrored Lila's when she signed with Zara. He thought of Bradley's fund, its predatory grip, and Harlem's anger, its justified pain. Zara's violin hummed a soft note in the living room, Lila mirroring it with her hands. Keisha packed flyers, her movement steady, a silent vow to honor her sister. Marcus gripped the photo, his decision clear. They'd fight, not just for Lila, but for a truth bigger than power. Harlem's dawn glowed, and the concert's first note waiting to be played. Harlem's Marcus Garvey Park thrummed with life, its stage ablaze under strung LEDs for the hashtag Harlem Hope concert. Crowds packed the grass, families, teens, elders, phones streaming the live stream, hashtag trending worldwide. Marcus Langston stood backstage, his AI startup's fate tied to this night. Lila, 8 and silent, clutched his hand, her braids catching the neon glow. Her fingers signed music in nervous loops, eyes on Zara Miles, tuning her borrowed violin center stage. Marcus's chest tightened. Bradley Thornton's deadline was hours away, his fund poised to crush everything. Zara's first note pierced the air, a raw waltz that hushed the crowd. Lila broke free, climbing onto the stage, her hands signing music to the melody. Marcus froze, heart pounding, as the audience gasped. Lila, autistic and mute, stood beside Zara, her fingers dancing like a conductor's, guiding the violin's rhythm. Zara smiled, playing bolder, her scarred hands steady. The live stream exploded. Millions watched Lila's hands, her face alight with joy. Marcus whispered, "Helen, she's shining." Keisha, in the wings, gripped a flyer, her social worker badge glinting. Her eyes, once hard with doubt, softened, seeing Helen in Lila's courage. She'd rallied Harlem's leaders for this, honoring her sister's legacy. The crowd cheered, phones raised, capturing Lila's signs, hope, music. But tension rippled. A group of teens pushed forward, their faces familiar from the park attack. "White man show," one shouted, hurling a bottle. It shattered near Zara, glass glinting. Marcus lunged onto the stage, shielding Lila, his suit tearing. "Get back!" he roared. The crowd surged, some cheering, others jeering. Zara's bow faltered, but Lila signed stop, her hands firm, eyes fierce like Helen's. Zara nodded, playing a fierce crescendo, her violins wailed, drowning the chaos. The teens froze, phones still rolling, live stream soaring. Marcus held Lila close, her heartbeat steady against his. The crowd's anger split, some chanted Harlem, others hope. Keisha ran on stage, arms wide, shouting, "This is for us, for Lila." Her voice, raw with Jamal's loss, carried Helen's fire. The teens hesitated, one lowering his phone, shame flickering. Zara's final note soared, and Lila signed love, her hands wide under the LEDs. The crowd erupted, applause thundering. The live stream hit 10 million views, hashtag Harlem Hope trending globally. Marcus's phone buzzed, investors, not Bradley, pledging support, swayed by the viral wave. His startup was safe, for now. He lifted Lila, her smile mirroring Helen's, and faced Zara. "You did this," he said, voice thick. Zara shook her head, signing Lila with scarred hands. Lila hugged her, signing thank you, her fingers sure. Keisha approached, tears streaking her face. "I was wrong," she said to Zara, voice breaking. "You're family." She hugged Zara, then Lila, her arms trembling, bridging years of pain. The crowd chanted Harlem Hope, phones glowing like stars. Marcus felt Helen's bracelet in his pocket, its weight grounding him. But Bradley's shadow loomed. His fund wouldn't yield easily. An ex-post flashed. "CEO's stunt divides Harlem," comments split between praise and hate. Backstage, Marcus checked the livestream stats, views climbing, donations pouring for Harlem's youth. Lila tugged his sleeve, signing music again, her eyes bright. Zara packed her violin, her face weary but proud. Keisha handed out flyers, her movements fierce, a vow to rebuild. Marcus's phone buzzed again. Bradley's email, "This changes nothing. Monday, we vote you out." His jaw clenched. The concert saved his company, but Bradley's power hungered for control. The park's LEDs dimmed, Harlem's pulse beating, siren wails, laughter, a distant beat. Marcus held Lila's hand, her warmth a shield. Zara's violin case gleamed under a streetlight, her silhouette defiant. Keisha stood beside them, her eyes on the crowd, seeing Jamal, Helen, a future. Marcus touched Helen's photo in his wallet, its edges worn. The concert's echo lingered, a fragile victory against a looming war. Harlem's neon flickered, and Marcus knew the fight wasn't over, but Lila's love signed under the lights was a flame no power could douse. Marcus Langston stood outside Bradley Thornton's Manhattan boardroom, the city's skyline a cold grid through tinted glass. Monday's vote loomed. Bradley's fund aimed to oust Marcus, gut his AI startup, and kill Harlem's projects. His suit, pressed but worn, carried the weight of the Harlem Hope concert's triumph, now fading under Bradley's email, "You're out." Lila's face, signing love under stage lights, burned in Marcus's mind. He gripped Helen's faded hospital bracelet, its plastic warm, and pushed through the door. The boardroom gleamed, mahogany table, suits in rows, Bradley at the head, his silver hair sharp under LEDs. "Marcus," Bradley said, voice smooth, "your Harlem stunt was cute, but profits don't lie. Step down or we liquidate." Marcus's jaw clenched. Bradley's fund, a predator circling startups, held his company's shares. The board, white, male, detached, nodded, their pens poised. Marcus set his phone down, Harlem Hope's livestream stats glowing, 10 million views, millions donated. "Lila's my daughter," Marcus began, voice steady. "She's autistic, mute, but she signed hope for the world to see. Harlem made that happen, not your money." He tapped his phone, playing the concert clip, Zara's violin soaring, Lila's hands dancing. The board shifted, eyes flickering. Bradley scoffed. "Sentiment won't save your company. Harlem's a drain." Marcus leaned forward. "Harlem's my home. You don't get to erase it." Keisha's text buzzed. "We're outside, for Helen." Marcus glanced through the glass. Keisha, Zara, and Harlem's leaders rallied below, signs reading "Save Harlem Hope." Zara's borrowed violin gleamed, her scars catching sunlight. Lila, with Keisha, signing music, her braids swaying. Marcus's chest swelled. Helen's courage lived in them. He turned to Bradley. "You want profit? Harlem Hope brought investors. They're backing us because of Lila, Zara, Harlem, not you." Bradley slammed his fist. "You're bluffing. This board votes now." A board member, gray-haired, raised a hand. "I saw the live stream," he said, voice gruff. "My daughter's autistic. That girl, Lila, she's real. I'm with Marcus." Murmurs spread. Another nodded, then two more. Bradley's face reddened. "You're throwing away billions." Marcus met his glare. "Not billions. Dignity, truth. You don't own that." The door burst open. Keisha stormed in, her social worker badge flashing, Zara and Lila behind. "This is Harlem," Keisha said, voice fierce, echoing Jamal's loss, Helen's fire. "You don't get to silence us." Zara lifted her violin, playing a single note, sharp and defiant. Lila signed hope, her hands bold, eyes locked on Marcus. The board froze, pens dropping. Bradley laughed, cold. "A circus won't change my vote." But the live stream, still rolling on Marcus's phone, surged. New investors, ex-posts flooding. "Stand with Harlem." Marcus stood taller. "You're outvoted, Bradley. Step down or we expose your fund's predatory deals." He slid a folder across, documents leaked by a whistleblower detailing Bradley's startup scams. The board gasped, flipping pages. Bradley's eyes widened, his control slipping. "You can't prove this," he hissed. Marcus pointed to the live stream, now at 15 million views. "The world's watching. Truth's louder than your money." The gray-haired board member stood. "I moved to remove Bradley as chair." Hands shot up, 6, 7, 8. Bradley's face drained, his silver hair dull under the LEDs. "You'll regret this," he spat, storming out. The board exhaled, turning to Marcus. "What now?" one asked. Marcus looked at Lila, sign in love by Zara's side. "We rebuild Harlem. Coding camps, youth centers, music programs, for Lila, for all." Keisha hugged Marcus, tears falling. "Helen's proud," she whispered, her voice soft, healed. Zara lowered her violin, signing thank you to Lila, her scars a map of survival. Lila hugged her, signing family, her fingers sure. The boardroom's glass framed Harlem below, protesters cheering, signs waving, phones live streaming. Marcus's phone buzzed, new funds pledged, enough to save his company, Harlem's dreams. He stepped to the window, Helen's bracelet in hand. Her photo, in his wallet, smiled fierce and kind. The skyline softened, Manhattan's grid no longer cold. Zara's violin note lingered in his mind, Lila's hands dancing to its rhythm. Keisha stood beside him, her badge glinting, seeing Jamal, Helen, a future. Harlem's pulse thrummed, siren wails, laughter, a distant beat. Marcus knew Bradley's defeat was one battle, not the war. But Lila's hope signed in the boardroom was a truth no power could break. Harlem's Marcus Garvey Park bloomed under September's golden light, its grass vibrant with families for the grand opening of the #Harlem Hope Youth Center. Marcus Langston stood by a ribbon, scissors in hand, his AI startup now thriving with new investors. Lila, 9 now, tugged his sleeve, signing music with steady hands, her braids adorned with beads. Her smile, once rare, shone bright, a mirror of Helen's. Marcus touched the hospital bracelet in his pocket, its faded ink a quiet anchor. Zara Miles tuned her violin nearby, no longer borrowed but gifted by a donor moved by #Harlem Hope's livestream. She'd moved into a small Harlem apartment, her van days behind, teaching music to kids at the center. Her scarred hands danced over the strings, playing a soft waltz. Lila ran to her, signing hope, her fingers fluid. Zara smiled, signing family back, her eyes warm. Marcus watched, his chest full. Helen's legacy lived in their bond. Keisha, badge glinting as Harlem's community liaison, greeted elders, her laughter free. Jamal's loss still lingered, but her work, coding camps, art programs, therapy spaces, honored him and Helen. She approached Marcus, her eyes soft. "You kept your promise," she said, voice low. "Helen's here, in this." She gestured to the center, its mural of Harlem heroes, Malcolm X, Maya Angelou, now joined by Lila, signing love. Marcus nodded, throat tight. "We all did." The ribbon cutting began, the crowd cheering as scissors snipped. Lila clapped, signing happy, her hands a beacon. Zara struck a triumphant note, her violin soaring, kids from the center joining with drums, flutes, voices. The music pulsed, Harlem's rhythm, siren wails, laughter, a distant beat, woven into its melody. Marcus's phone buzzed, an ex-post, Harlem Hope Center opens, millions of likes, no hate. Harlem had claimed its victory. Later, Marcus walked the center's halls, walls bright with kids' art. In a music room, Zara taught a teen to hold a violin, her patience gentle. Lila sat cross-legged, signing music to a younger girl, her confidence new. Marcus leaned against the door, Helen's photo in his wallet warm against his chest. He'd sold half his startup shares, funneling millions into Harlem, youth programs, scholarships, safe spaces. Bradley Thornton's fund, disgraced, was dissolving, its scams exposed. Marcus felt no triumph, only peace. Keisha found him, holding a flyer for the center's first concert. Zara's headlining, she said, smiling. Lila signing with her. Marcus's eyes widened. On stage? Keisha nodded, her badge catching light. She's ready, Helen's girl. They walked to the park, where families danced to a youth band. Lila ran ahead, signing dance to Zara, who laughed, twirling her. Keisha touched Marcus's arm. Jamal would have loved this, she whispered, eyes glistening. Marcus hugged her, their grief shared, softened by hope. Night fell. Harlem's neon buzzing, storefronts, murals, streetlights. Marcus sat on his brownstone stoop, Lila beside him, signing stars. He pointed to the sky, naming constellations Helen loved. Lila's hands moved, signing Mom, her face calm. Marcus kissed her forehead, whispering, "She's with us." Zara's violin, practicing nearby, drifted through the air, a melody of resilience. Keisha joined them, her badge off, a rare ease in her smile. "We're family," she said, signing it for Lila. Marcus looked at Harlem, its pulse alive, its pain not gone but carried with dignity. The center stood as a promise, its doors open to kids like Lila, Jamal, countless others. His startup, leaner now, focused on AI for good, tools for accessibility, education, justice. An ex-post flashed, Harlem Hope inspires global centers, with cities pledging their own. Marcus smiled, Helen's bracelet light in his pocket. Lila signed love, her hands wide, and Harlem's glow answered. The city's rhythm thrummed, a song of truth over power. Marcus held Lila close, Zara's violin a heartbeat, Keisha's laughter a chord. Helen's fierce smile, in his wallet, lit the way. Harlem's stars burned bright, and Marcus knew their fight against oppression, loss, silence had carved a path for hope, one note, one sign, one step at a time. 1 year after the Harlem Hope Youth Center opened, Harlem's pulse beat stronger, its streets alive with murals, music, and laughter. Marcus Langston stood on his brownstone stoop, the October breeze carrying scents of roasted chestnuts from a vendor. His AI startup, now a beacon for ethical tech, powered accessibility tools worldwide, sign language apps, braille readers, community platforms. Lila, 10, sat beside him, signing Dream with confident hands, her braids catching the sun. Her autism remained, but her world had opened, her smile a constant echo of Helen's. The center, a block away, buzzed with kids, coding classes, art studios, music rooms. Its mural, expanded, now featured Zara Miles, violin raised, beside Lila signing hope. Marcus had poured his wealth into it, selling more startup shares to fund satellites in Chicago, Detroit, Lagos. An ex-post glowed on his phone. Hashtag Harlem Hope Global reaches 50 cities, with millions celebrating. Bradley Thornton's fund was gone, its scams a footnote, but Harlem's triumph was a headline. Zara, now the center's music director, lived with purpose. Her apartment, modest but hers, held sheet music and photos. Lila's drawings, Harlem's concerts. She'd recorded an album, Hope Strings, its proceeds funding scholarships. Today, she led a youth orchestra in Marcus Garvey Park, her violin weaving through flutes and drums. Lila joined her on stage, signing music, her hands a dance of light. The crowd, diverse and vast, cheered, phones live streaming. Marcus watched, Helen's hospital bracelet light in his pocket, its faded ink a vow kept. Keisha, Harlem's youth advocate, stood nearby, her badge retired for a council seat. Her campaign, rooted in Jamal's memory, championed safe spaces, mental health, justice. Her laughter, once rare, rang free as she hugged kids, their faces bright with futures she'd fought for. She caught Marcus's eye, signing family for Lila, her smile soft. "Helen's proud," she said, voice warm. "So's Jamal." Marcus nodded, his throat tight, seeing Helen in the center's glow, Jamal in its kids' courage. The concert ended, and Lila tugged Marcus to the stage. Zara handed her a microphone, a new milestone. Lila had begun vocalizing, soft sounds shaped by Zara's music and therapy. Lila faced the crowd, signing thank you, then whispered, hope. Her voice, fragile but clear, pierced the air. The audience gasped, then roared, tears streaking faces. Marcus froze, tears falling, Helen's fierce smile in his wallet alive. Zara hugged Lila, signing brave, her scarred hands trembling. Keisha rushed up, lifting Lila, her council pin glinting, shouting, "That's our girl." After, they walked to the center, kids trailing, sharing dreams, coders, artists, doctors. A teen, once among Zara's attackers, now played violin beside her, his apology a quiet song. Marcus listened, his startup's AI translating their signs for global live streams. The center's halls sparkled, new labs, a theater, a garden blooming where graffiti once stood. A plaque read, "For Helen, Jamal, and Harlem's heart." Marcus touched it, his fingers tracing Helen's name, peace settling deep. Keisha led them to a rooftop garden, Harlem's skyline a tapestry of neon and stars. Lila ran to a telescope, signing stars, her voice testing, sky. Marcus knelt, naming constellations Helen loved, his voice cracking. Zara played a soft note, her violin a heartbeat. Keisha sat, her council pin off, eyes on the city. "We changed it," she said, voice low. "Not just Harlem, everywhere." An X-post flashed. Lila's voice inspires sign language search, schools adopting ASL globally. Marcus thought of Bradley's boardroom, its cold grid gone. His startup, lean and purposeful, served communities, not profits. He'd faced Harlem's distrust, his own doubts, and won, not with power, but truth. Lila's hope, signed a year ago, had sparked a movement, its ripples endless. He looked at Zara, her violin case worn but proud, her scars a story of survival. Keisha, her grief woven into advocacy, stood taller. Lila, her voice emerging, signed love, her hands wide, Harlem's glow answering. They stayed late, kids performing, poetry, dance, code demos. A girl, Lila's age, signed Dream, her hands mirroring Lila's. Marcus smiled, his phone buzzing with pledges, new setters in Mumbai, Nairobi, Seoul. The live stream hit 20 million views, hashtag Harlem Hope, a global anthem. He stepped outside, Harlem's rhythm thrummed, vendors calling, music spilling, a siren's distant wail. Helen's photo, edges worn, smiled in his wallet. He whispered, "We did it, love." Lila tugged his hand, signing home. They walked to the brownstone, Zara and Keisha beside, their laughter a chord. The stoop, once a place of doubt, was now hope's cradle. Lila signed Mom, her voice soft, Helen. Marcus kissed her forehead, tears warm. Zara played a final note, her violin drifting into the night. Keisha signed Family, her eyes bright. Harlem's stars burned, a constellation of truth over power, dignity over pain, hope over silence. The city's pulse sang, a legacy carved in music, signs, and dreams. Marcus held Lila close, Zara's melody a heartbeat, Keisha's strength a shield. Helen's fierce smile lit the way, Jamal's courage in every step. The hashtag Harlem Hope Center stood, its doors open, its light spreading. Marcus knew the fight against oppression, loss, fear would never end. But their path, one note, one sign, one voice at a time, was eternal.